I'm discussing a topic that sounds a little abstruse or a little bit technical, but it's really not. It's the methodological atheism of science, and how science, in a sense, brings with it a certain dogmatism toward topics like transcendence, subjectivity, miracles, and the supernatural. Science excludes them without even being really willing to take a hard look. Now, we see this in the way that scientists and science organs, science institutions, but also science journals talk about scientific concepts that have some transcendent or theological implications. Several years ago, the eminent science writer John Maddox, very respected figure in the science community, published an article in Nature, considered by some the leading scientific journal in the world, titled "Down with the Big Bang." Now, think about this. Why would a scientist say down with the Big Bang? Either there was a Big Bang or there wasn't. And if there was, why would you be down with it? And down with it here doesn't mean I'm down with it, I'm okay with it. It means the opposite. I don't like it. Get rid of it. So clearly the Big Bang happened. Maddox admits it, but he's sort of saying, I wish it didn't. And here's Arthur Eddington, who was, by the way, a scientist who helped to confirm Einstein's theory of relativity, a British astronomer. And Arthur Eddington describes the Big Bang as, quote, repugnant. Same attitude. I don't like it. And Eddington says he's looking for, quote, a genuine loophole in order to, quote, allow evolution in infinite time to get started. Wow. So here's what Eddington is saying. Evolution may not have enough time because all these changes described by Darwin would take a very long time to occur. Now, of course, if time stretches back to infinity, if the universe has always existed, then there would be time, because there's no end, if you will, to the amount of time. So Eddington believed that I kind of need to give evolution that. I want to believe in evolution. I don't want to believe in the Big Bang. Think about this. This is a scientist talking, but he's not talking like a scientist. Here's physicist Stephen Hawking saying why a large number of scientists did not like the Big Bang and wanted to support the steady state, the theory of a universe that, in a sense, creates and dissolves matter almost, you may say, on its own. A very bizarre theory that's now completely discredited. Here's Hawking writing, quote, there were therefore a number of attempts to avoid the conclusion that there had been a Big Bang. Many people do not like the idea that time has a beginning, probably because it smacks of divine intervention. And there is Hawking, letting the cat out of the bag. And some scientists like Steven Weinberg, Nobel laureate, I think for a long time at Cornell, he describes, quote, he talks about, quote, nicely avoiding the problem of Genesis. So what is exactly this problem of Genesis? Here's astronomer and physicist Lee Smolin. He says, look, if the universe started at a fixed point in time, quote, this leaves the door open for a return to religion. And Smolin is outraged by this. He doesn't like this idea. He goes, quote, must all of our scientific understanding of the world really come down to a mythological story in which nothing exists save some disembodied intelligence who, desiring to start a world, chooses the initial conditions and then wills matter into being? So here is Smolin. He is, in fact, drawing the most obvious conclusion from the idea of a universe that has a beginning in time, and by the way, in space. He's drawing the most obvious conclusion and going, I can't stand it. I refuse emotionally and temperamentally and perhaps even morally to accept that it happened that way. Again, these are professional scientists at the best universities talking, and they're not speaking in the language of science. And here's Smolin. He goes on. He says, it seems to me that the only possible name for such an observer is God. After all, God would have to be the all-powerful, all-knowing, and immaterial, quote, disembodied intelligence that did all this. And Smolin continues, and that theory is to be criticized as being unlikely on these grounds. So here is a scientist giving a completely non-scientific reason for rejecting a theory. which is what? The theory is basically, it has supernatural implications. It has religious implications. It seems to vindicate Judaism and Christianity. It brings back into the picture the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and on those grounds, I reject it.